So this is a presentation that I gave recently at the Association for Contextual Behavioural Sciences International Conference in Sydney. And the presentation is actually an Ignite presentation. So what that means is that you get 5 minutes, you get 20 slides, and the slides auto-advance. Now, because I presented this at the Association for Contextual Behavioural Sciences International Conference, my audience was fellow researchers and clinicians. But I think any parents watching will be able to follow the gist of the presentation. And at the very end, I'm actually going to say a little bit extra that wasn't in the original Ignite presentation to break down my main message in really simple jargon-free terms for any parents. Okay, you ready? Let's get into the Ignite presentation. Behavioural parenting advice places enormous emphasis on the importance of promoting early self-soothing, and I think this is a mistake. Our understanding of self-soothing is limited by several dangerous misconceptions. These misconceptions isolate us from research on emotional availability, maintain an out-of-date war between the behavioural crowd and the attachment crowd, stop us from fully applying modern contextual science to parenting, and undermine continued breastfeeding. So what are these misconceptions? It starts, I think, by treating the term self-soothing as if it had a specific behavioural referent, when it's actually pretty clear that it doesn't. Self-soothing is not a particular behaviour, but a functionally defined class of behaviours. If a behaviour has an emotional regulatory function, then it is soothing. If it is also being done independently, then it is self-soothing. Looking at how the term is used, self-soothing includes behaviours with the function of changing the form, frequency, or situational sensitivity of emotions, and behaviours with the function of changing the child's relationship to their emotions, and behaviours that alter the child's expression of their emotions. This moves us neatly on to the next misconception, that self-soothing is always adaptive. We all know that specific behaviours aren't good or bad by logical necessity, but the context makes them so. Yet self-soothing in a baby or a toddler is routinely assumed to be adaptive. It is also assumed to be developmentally advanced. Consider suckling. A baby may suckle independently by sucking his thumb, or suckle with the participation of another by breastfeeding. The first type of sucking is classified as self-soothing. The second is not. A baby who regularly sucks his thumb to settle back to sleep is classified as reaching the developmental milestone of sleeping through the night. The baby breastfeeding back to sleep is not. Yet I'd suggest that it is inappropriate to think of these two babies as being developmentally different. Sucking a thumb or sucking a nipple may be different in form, but they are functionally and developmentally equivalent behaviours. Because self-soothing is treated as if it has a specific behavioural referent, it seems as if a child can only learn to self-soothe in isolation. But if self-soothing is a class of behaviours, it becomes clear that isolation isn't necessary. A child may learn emotional regulatory skills with assistance from their parents and gradually achieve independence in their execution over time. Self-soothing can be learnt in exactly the same way as self-dressing or self-feeding, gradually, through modelling, vicarious learning, scaffolding and shaping. What this approach loses in speed, it makes up for in precision. The parent can precisely target specific skills, like experiential acceptance, and the child has the opportunity to learn the subtle contextual cues indicating the availability of natural reinforcement for varying degrees and types of emotional expression. Now, once we see self-soothing in this way, the empirical story within the attachment, emotional availability, and meta-emotional literature makes sense. Parents who assist their babies and toddlers to soothe in this manner have children with better independent emotional regulation abilities at school age. This literature uses a different theoretical perspective, but many of the empirical findings should make sense to any ACT therapist. So maybe promoting early self-soothing isn't about the child's emotional development, but it's better for the parents, isn't it? Well, that depends. What's best for an individual parent depends on that parent's values, learning history, and circumstances. We need to support the appropriate and appetite of contextual control of parenting behaviour. Now, for me, a striking example of how we're getting this wrong is the advice to never breastfeed your baby to sleep. This advice is routinely given to mothers of newborns with no thought whatsoever for the contingencies that maintain breastfeeding in the mother. if a mother wants to maintain breastfeeding, then it is vital for her to breastfeed in a manner that allows her to contact the natural reinforcers of continued breastfeeding. So, sure, some parents find that promoting early self-soothing in particular contexts works well for them. Good luck to them. Other parents find different solutions, and good luck to them too. Because I really don't think that promoting early self-soothing has got anything to do with this. A child walking through the school gates on their first day of school as a psychologically flexible human being with a rich and a flexible emotional regulatory repertoire. So thank you so much for listening. That's the end of the Ignite presentation. If you're a researcher or a clinician who's out there listening to this and it's all making sense to you, then please feel free to connect with me. Now, for the parents who may have listened to this and want me to sort of break that down in a really in simple terms, what I'm saying is this, parents. I'm saying follow your own heart. Follow your own parenting values. Parenting should feel good and right and true to you. Also, notice what works on your unique individual child. So if promoting self-soothing in certain situations works well, that's great. If other solutions are working well, that's great too. And regardless of the decisions you make about all that stuff, you can promote your baby's long-term emotional development starting today. Respond to their cues. Be aware of your child's emotions. Start to notice them. Make your home into an accepting, loving space for emotions and emotional expression. View your child's emotions as opportunities. They're opportunities for your child to learn about emotions, and they're opportunities for you to connect and build a stronger relationship. Talk about emotions as they come up in daily life, and help your child with their emotional regulation in a way that we kind of call scaffolding and shaping. So that what that means is you give just enough support for your child to be able to do it, and then gradually over time you notice as they're getting better, and you give less and less support until they're doing it naturally for themselves. You're probably already doing this in teaching your child how to feed themselves or dress themselves and all of those other kinds of skills. So apply it to emotions as well. Thanks very much for listening.